Hello everyone, and welcome to the Dice Commando YouTube channel. I'm Andrew, with you here as always. This is Go Again, a fabulous video cast covering the trading card game Flesh and Blood. This video and others like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. Please show your support with a like and subscribe, and be sure to hit the bell notification icon so you don't miss any new videos. If you want to get involved with the channel, consider becoming a channel member. There are many benefits to channel membership, including access to our Discord, exclusive deck tech and strategy videos, and the opportunity to help create channel content. I want to sincerely thank all our channel members, as I truly couldn't do this without your support. You guys rock. Go Commando.
So you've been playing Flesh and Blood for a while now, and you're starting to get it, right? You understand how the combat chain works, how chain links work, and at least at a very high level, you're starting to get it down. However, just to put it into perspective, many of the veteran players, even those who've been there since the beginning, didn't really start to understand the intricacies of the chain link really until Monarch dropped, right? There were a lot of things that came out of Monarch that made it very important to know exactly the exact, minute details of the chain link work, right? Specifically with Levia, when does my pump card go to my discard so that I can banish it, and stuff like that. So tonight, what I want to do is I want to break down from a rule-centric standpoint how the combat chain and specifically chain links work in Flesh and Blood. Hello, Flesh and Blood folks. Welcome back to Dice Commando and the Commando Cast. I'm Andrew with here as always, and tonight what I wanted to do was take a very focused look at the combat chain and specifically chain links and how that all works actually from a rules-centric point of view. As I alluded to in the intro, a lot of us, even veteran players, up until really Monarch, kind of didn't do it right, and that wasn't because we were bad players or whatever. It's because it didn't really, right, the little pieces didn't really matter, right, for the most part, right. What a lot of us flipped our equipment over when it was dead instead of sending it to the discard zone. We would, I'm guilty of this all the time even today, right, sharpen steel into Warrior's Valor into your swing, right. They'll all still be there on the chain. It's technically not right. Right, so what I wanted to do tonight was really kind of deep dive into the rules about it so that everyone can be on the same page, because especially as a new player going to an event, you see somebody who's like, oh yeah, boom, 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 there's 4 cards on the chain. That's just the way it is, right? So let's go ahead and just go to the rules document. Oh my gosh, let's go check out the rules, right? So what I'm flashing up on the screen right now is the rule on chain links. So what I have highlighted there is, when a chain link resolves, the turn player may continue the combat chain by playing another attack. If they don't, the combat chain closes, all permanents such as weapons and equipment return to their respective zones, and all other cards are put into their owner's graveyard. Okay, so that's said there, but the key here is actually kind of, to a certain extent, what's not said. Right, which is that second sentence there. If they do, right, they can continue the combat chain by playing another attack. If they do, it becomes the attack step of chain link N, where N+1 is the number of previous chain links on the combat chain. All right, so that's basically saying link 1, link 2, link 3, and so on. And the thing that's not said here is it ends if you don't play an attack, right? Because what it says is the positive version of the player may continue the chain by playing another attack. It doesn't say if you play a non-attack action or take some other action, the chain link closes. Okay, and that's very important. And it doesn't mean they wrote the rules wrong. That's not what I'm saying. It's just that sometimes, for some of us, the way we read it, we try to look for the positive statement instead of what's not there, especially if you have a lack of understanding. So that's really the point of tonight, is kind of going through that, looking at specific examples and trying to make it very clear exactly how you get to link 2 or 3 or more, or how you break the chain link, right? And just to put it in perspective and make sure that everyone understands that I understand why they don't understand, right? The intro video to Flesh and Blood, right, the LSS one, is actually a little, from my perspective anyway, it actually was a little convoluted on this to think that, chain link 1, as long as I have go again, it's chain link 2 and so on because I continue the combat chain. And obviously what we just saw from the rules is that's not the way it works. So the objective tonight is to clarify that. And I'm going to do this tonight using just two very simple examples. Card examples, right? The first is we're going to look at V of the Vanguard. So I want to read this card before we start going into the depths. So Bravo spec, not relevant, but as an additional cost to play this, you may charge any number of times. Okay. Attacks you control on this combat chain gain +1 for each light card charged this way. So what this means is V of the Vanguard will give anything within the same chain. So if it is, so let's say V of the Vanguard is chain link 1, it will give chain link 2, 3, 4, and so on. It will give that an advantage. But if you break the chain, V of the Vanguard will not transfer its plus, it will not transfer its bonus downstream, right? That's, I think, the best way to say that. Hopefully that makes sense, right? So if you V of the Vanguard, if you do anything that is a non-attack, that is not an attack, it breaks that. And even if you still have more action points or more go again to continue on within your turn, V of the Vanguard's bonus will not transfer downstream. The next is Heart and Cross Trap. I love this example because it's so fundamental. Heart and Cross Trap just says, destroy Heart and Cross Trap. The next attack action card you play this turn gains 2 less to play. Go again. Very, very simple card. Actually, now that I'm looking at this and reading it, probably doesn't make any sense, but stick with me. We're going to get there. So the first example I have is this. So this is across your screen right now. The play, and I do it I've done it in my Ira deck, right? For those of us who are, budget people and we don't necessarily have a tunic, I play Heart and Cross Trap, and I play 1 copy of Flying Kick for the purpose of, the whole point is to stab, bust the Cross Trap, and Flying Kick. But there I just said it. What I just said is actually the wrong thing to do, right? So let's go, like I said, we'll flash this up on the screen, and let's go through it. So the broken chain method, well, meaning the way to not play this is we'd have something in our pitch zone to Kodachi 1, Kodachi 2 with go again, right? So Kodachi 1 would be chain link 1, Kodachi 2 with Ira would actually be Kodachi 4-2, but that's chain link 2. If at that point I say, okay, I have Flying Kick in my hand, I want to play it, and I pop my Cross Trap, Flying Kick says if it is link 3 or higher, it gains +2. Awesome card, but if you pop your Cross Trap after the Kodachis, it is not link 3, it's link 1. So the correct way to play this, because again, Cross Trap, if you read it, says for the turn, you actually pop your Cross Trap, you stab, and then you kick, right? And that's a way to maintain chain link integrity because, chain link 1, chain link 2, we break it, go back to chain link 1, but if we pop it first, we go chain link 1, chain link 2, chain link 3. And that is the proper way to do this via the rules. And it's important to understand stuff like this, even at your local levels, but especially as people looking at Road to Nationals and beyond, people aren't going to let you get away with stuff like that. So it's very, very important to understand examples such as this. All right, next, let's move on to the V of the Vanguard example. Another great combo out there is V of the Vanguard combined with Dusk Path with Raiden, right? It's a very, very simple combo. It's not too card intensive, and it lets you get a lot of swings in for a lot of bonus. If you pop your Dusk Path, right? So say you play V of the Vanguard, and then you throw down Dusk Path to give Raiden your next Raiden swing the ability to go again on hit, or not the ability to go again, the ability to swing again on hit, you would actually break the chain and you would lose your bonus. So in the top version, the broken chain, the don't do it this way version, would be chain link 1 via the Vanguard, Dusk Path, and then we lose our bonus, so it's only a +6 and a +3. We still have charged this turn, so Raiden gets its thing, but you don't carry forward the bonus from via the Vanguard. On the flip side, if you do it the correct way, the proper way, you would Dusk Path first, into Via the Vanguard, into Chainlink 2, which is your second Raiden swing. You get +6/+X, where X is the number of cards you charged. And then you would go to Chainlink 3, which is the second swing of Duskbane, Raiden, at +3/+X. All right, so that is the proper way to do it. And furthermore, as I implied not really implied, kind of spoke to at the beginning of this, when do we clear those cards, right? It was very clear from the rules that Dusk Path, the non-attack, because it's not continuing a chain link, would actually go to the discard, right? So it's very, very frequent. You see, I'll put up a picture from one of my recent tournaments. I'm guilty of it as well, right? A lot of us make this mistake. Dusk Path should go to the discard pile immediately after a play is resolved. Now, many of us like to leave it in play to kind of remember that it's there, which is completely reasonable, as long as we remember technically the zone that it's supposed to be in, which is the discard pile, right? Once Dusk Path goes in and it resolves and it does its thing, it's supposed to go to the discard pile. Via the Vanguard, however, in the bottom example, Via the Vanguard will stay in play, will stay on the combat chain until that chain closes. Hopefully that makes sense. So one of the great examples that comes up with this out of Via the Vanguard is this is fundamentally why people don't Via the Vanguard into Lumina Ascension, right? If you do Via the Vanguard's Chainlink 1, completely reasonable, you give it go again, but when you go into Lumina Ascension, it breaks the combat chain. The Via the Vanguard bonus does not carry forward, and that's why typically people are trying to, usually like Bolt of Courage and Snapdragons or something like that. Sometimes you could do a Take Flight, whatever. But that's why you don't carry that forward into your multi-Cintauri Saber swing, right? So putting it just in a practical example, practical case of why we don't see that, and that's because, quite frankly, quite literally, how the rules work. All right, so now I want to pull up this rules point here because I want to talk about weapons and equipment. Closing the combat chain. This is section 21 of the 21 of the comprehensive rules. All permanents on the combat chain, such as weapons and equipment, return to their respective zones when the combat chain closes. So why that's relevant and also confusing, we'll talk about in a second. But why it's relevant is defending from equipment. So what I have across the screen right now is just some, I'm not saying this is a great combo, right? These are just cards that I pulled up to kind of demonstrate. We scar into a head jab, so we have Chainlink 1 and a Chainlink 2, but then I'm going to play a Nimbleism into my Snatch. So Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2, Nimbleism resets because it breaks, and then Snatch becomes Chainlink 1. So if I am a warrior player against my opponent, I can use my bracers to defend Chainlink 1. If I defend that scar for a scar on Chainlink 1, I cannot use the bracers to defend Chainlink 2. However, once my opponent, plays Nimbleism, everything goes back to the respective zones, which means that I can use my bracers, I can use my equipment to defend the new chain link, right? Because everything's been reset, the board resets, everything goes, reset's a strong word, but everything goes back to their respective zones, right? So 1, 2, 3, I can only use my equipment within the same chain once, but then it goes back on a new chain if somehow my opponent's able to do that, and I can use it again. Now, where things get a little muddy there, and I'll go ahead and pull this up again, right? All permanents on the combat chain, such as weapons and equipment, return to their respective zones. Now, there's a little bit of confusion there because weapons don't actually enter the combat chain. They actually create an attack on the combat chain. And I can reference that rule here with 15.5.4. If the activated ability has an attack effect, the combat chain opens or continues, and the power of the attack's added to the value of the source and effect. Right? And why that's relevant is something, I'm not saying this is the only one, but something like this here where warrior, like Dawnblade's a great example, right? Because you can attack again with Dawnblade. Or, well, generally it doesn't come up, I don't think, with the pistol, with the Mechanologist pistol. I think it doesn't quite come up, but it might. And you could look at that too, right? That's actually, I'm not going to cover that here, but that's a great case study for you to go look at and trying to figure out for yourselves, like, does this work, does it not, right? But the one I'm putting up across the screen right now is something like a fundamental Dorinthea play, right? Warrior's Valor into Dawnblade, right? Dawnblade swings for 6. If it hits again, not only does it gain Go Again because of Warrior's Valor, but it can swing again because of Dorinthea. The second Dawnblade swing is still Chain Link 2, right? It doesn't break the chain, or it doesn't have to break the chain, right? So if my weapon goes back to its zone when the chain link ends, doesn't that mean I can't swing with it, right? And that's where things get a little confusing. And this is one of the things where I can't say the rules are written the best, and maybe there's somebody out there who even understands it better. There's probably many people out there who understand it far better than I do. But you're not violating, and you're not violating the rules, and you're not breaking the combat chain by swinging a second time with the same weapon, right? You're not, because as long as it forms an attack, you continue your combat chain. All right. So now, with everything we've discussed today, I have a quiz, which is it's not an easy one, right? So here's your quiz. I lead the charge, right? So lead the charge gives the next time you play an action card with cost 0 or greater, gain 1 action point. So red lead the charge into a rising solar tide. After solar tide goes, I then play push the point, right? And let's just go ahead. I mean, because bonuses are great, right? Let's go ahead and it doesn't really matter, but let's go ahead and say it's hit just because push the point then becomes bigger, right? So we solar tide into push the point. Now, what's interesting here is solar tide doesn't have go again. I don't have go again, but I'm using the action point, the extra action point from lead the charge. So it doesn't have go again, but you have an extra point. Is push the point link 2? So does it get the bonus, right? Because push the point specifically says if the last attack on the combat chain, it gains +2. So what do you think? Let's pause just for a second. Okay, so the answer here is that push the point is chain link 2, right? So go again, all go again does, go again is not a specific structure to the combat chain itself. Go again is a keyword, attribute, whatever, that gives you 1 additional action point. So fundamentally, whether you have 2 action points and then you play, or whether you have 1 action point and you play something that gives you go again another action point, it's the same. This chain link has not been, or this chain has not been broken because we have not done a non-attack action of any sort in between. All right, so hopefully going through the rules and throwing up examples has made this clear. I do want to extend the offer if there's anything I've missed or that anyone out there feels that I could clarify better, please put that in the comments below. The whole point of doing this is about learning. So let's learn together, right? Help people understand, help everybody understand, because it's just going to make people better, which is going to elevate the community. So I want to thank everybody for joining me tonight. Again, the whole point of the examples was to kind of try and do it visually and hopefully help people learn from it. But again, I'm always learning as well. Like I said, as little as 6 months ago, my equipment was being flipped upside down and my sharpened steels were staying in play when Dawnblade was going, right? Which isn't the right way to do it. So we're all learning all the time. Very, very complicated game. And the best thing we can do is have that conversation and talk about it. So thank you, everyone, very, very much for tuning in. Keep those stabs going and go Commando.